Imagine a city where the sea was not just a home for fish, but a highway for drugs, money, and blood. Imagine a man who looked like a hero to the poor, but in reality was the emperor of drugs and death. This man rose from the streets of Mombasa to become one of East Africa's most feared and powerful crime lords. His name was Ibrahim Akasha. Today, we uncover his story, a tale written in money, power, betrayal, and blood. Mombasa, Kenya, is one of Africa's oldest port cities, a bustling hub of trade, culture, and history. But alongside its beautiful beaches and ancient markets, the city also carried a darker truth. It was a perfect gateway for smuggling and the underworld. It was here, in a Swahili Muslim family, that Ibrahim Akasha was born. Not much is recorded about his childhood, but those who knew him say he was street smart from an early age. He grew up in the alleys and markets of Mombasa, learning quickly how the world of money and power really worked. His family started as ordinary traders, but in the 1970s and 80s a new storm was rising, the global heroin trade. Afghanistan and Pakistan became major producers, and traffickers needed routes to ship their drugs to Europe and the Middle East. Ibrahim saw opportunity where others saw risk. He realized Mombasa's port was the golden key. At first it started small. Hashish, small heroin consignments, little deals. But Ibrahim was ambitious. He built contacts with Pakistani smugglers and Afghan suppliers. Soon, he created his own drug route, from Karachi to Mombasa, then to Dubai, Italy, and Europe. He didn't just trade drugs, he dominated the system. Customs officers and police fell under his payroll. Those who resisted faced threats, disappearance, or death. By the late 80s, Ibrahim's name in Mombasa was enough to silence a crowd. Behind the walls of his luxury mansions and guarded compounds, Ibrahim was building an empire on blood and heroin. It was clear from the beginning, he was not just a smuggler, he was a gangster who would crush anyone in his way. The 1990s marked Ibrahim Akasha's golden era. By this time, he had expanded far beyond Kenya. His network stretched from the Golden Crescent, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran, all the way to the Golden Coast of East Africa and into Europe. Every month, heroin worth millions of dollars would move through Mombasa's port. The route was simple but deadly effective. Drugs left Karachi, arrived in Mombasa, and from there were shipped to Dubai, Italy, and major European cities. This pipeline was worth billions, and Ibrahim stood as its kingpin. He wasn't working alone. Ibrahim brought his sons, Baktash Akasha and Ibrahim Jr., into the business. Slowly, the Akasha family became a full-fledged crime dynasty, feared across East Africa. His power wasn't limited to the underworld. Politicians and police officers were on his payroll. Some members of Kenya's parliament were believed to be backed by his money. Elections and courts could be influenced with bribes or intimidation. For many years, Ibrahim operated above the law. But he wasn't seen only as a criminal. To the poor of Mombasa, Ibrahim was like a Robin Hood. He gave money to locals, supported communities, and provided jobs. People saw him as a generous man. Yet behind this mask of kindness was a ruthless drug lord whose empire was built on addiction and blood. As his empire grew, so did his enemies. Local gangs in Mombasa and Nairobi wanted a share of the lucrative trade. But Ibrahim didn't share. He crushed. Rival gangs often ended up dead, their bodies found floating in the sea, or they simply vanished, never to be seen again. By the mid-1990s, Ibrahim had silenced most of his local rivals. His control over the ports was absolute. Yet, his rise brought him into conflict with international players. Drug syndicates in Europe and smuggling networks in the Middle East began to see him as a threat. The Italian Mafia, Dubai traffickers, and European crime groups grew uneasy. Ibrahim wasn't just an African smuggler anymore. He was a global player, and they feared his power. Soon, mysterious shootings and gang wars broke out in Nairobi and Mombasa. Rivals were gunned down in hotels, clubs, and on the streets. Witnesses stayed silent. Everyone knew it was Akasha's hand, but no one dared speak. His empire was becoming too big, too fast, and the world's most dangerous mafias were taking notice. The stage was being set for his downfall. In early 2000, Ibrahim made a bold move. he decided to expand directly into Europe. For this, he traveled to Amsterdam, a city that was a hub for drug trafficking in Europe. His plan was ambitious: cut out the middlemen and create direct deals with European buyers. If successful, this would have made him one of the most powerful traffickers in the world. But it was also his biggest mistake. European syndicates were already uncomfortable with his growing influence. They didn't want an East African Don muscling into their markets. On May 16, 2000, the end came. While sitting in his Mercedes on a street in Amsterdam, Ibrahim was ambushed. Multiple gunmen opened fire, and the East African kingpin was killed instantly. His assassination sent shockwaves across Kenya and the underworld. Some believed it was a betrayal by his own associates. Others said it was a coordinated hit by rival mafias. Whatever the truth, the Emperor of Mombasa had fallen. After Ibrahim's death, his sons, Baktash and Ibrahim Abdallah, took over. Both were young, ruthless, and eager to continue their father's empire. At first, they succeeded. They maintained connections in Pakistan and Afghanistan, kept the heroin pipeline alive, and even expanded into methamphetamine. The Akasha brothers became feared names in East Africa. But unlike their father, they lacked discipline. Where Ibrahim worked quietly behind the scenes, his sons flaunted their wealth. Lavish parties, reckless violence, and flashy lifestyles drew attention. By the 2010s, the world had changed. Law enforcement was no longer blind to East Africa's drug routes. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, launched operations targeting major traffickers, and the Akasha brothers were at the top of the list. In 2017, a sting operation brought them down. DEA agents posed as drug buyers, striking deals with the brothers. Once the evidence was collected, Kenyan authorities, under heavy international pressure, extradited them to the U.S. In 2019, both Baktash and Ibrahim Jr. pleaded guilty to drug trafficking. They were sentenced to decades in American prisons. The Akasha empire had finally collapsed. The story of Ibrahim Akasha and his family is a dark lesson. It shows that no matter how powerful a criminal empire becomes, its end is always the same: death or prison. In Kenya, people still talk about Akasha. Some remember him as a generous man who gave to the poor. Others remember him as a ruthless Don who spread addiction and fear. But globally, Ibrahim Akasha is remembered as East Africa's Pablo Escobar, a man who built an empire of drugs and blood, only to be destroyed by the very power he craved. His legacy is a warning. In the underworld, money and power can take you to the top, but betrayal and bullets are always waiting.
The case may be closed, but criminology never sleeps. Like and subscribe at Join Criminology and step deeper into the dark with us.